doing, we're in big trouble. And I appreciate you much as a group, because changed as what you came to understand. See, you understand things about life and God and morality and values and law, but then there. See, I can look amongst you and feel them in any city, and find consistency in your, and the signal knowledge change. And that's revolution. That's like that last chapter of the Bible. To me, it was revolution. That was what it was about. And so I was in the line. I see Brother Wahid back there. Pulled me to the side a couple of years ago and tell me that Wednesday lecture series. I want to tell you all a story about that Wednesday lecture series, because I probably wouldn't be here right now done it. And what is 6 or 7 lectures, I believe 6 lectures, Brother Wahid, on consecutive Wednesday nights over the course of 2-3 months, was a job for one of the lectures, the last of the 6 lectures that I made, which you can find, I think it's November 18th, 19, Nation of Islam, called Compulsory Education is Mandatory Strangulation. And Brother Wahid had me there for those 6 programs. Of course, of those 6 lectures, which is The Art of Deception, Will There Be Any Niggas in the Year 2000, which was the night after U.S. bombs, very electric that evening, as Brother Akbar even gave us a report, things that were going on that were not in the news. We all did several other lectures. One was about compulsory. And subsequent to that, we also did Trilateral Commission and the Centralization of World Power. As you know, you are watched excessively by those who are us.
That's right.
And because you are so heavily watched, came in to share the little contributions that I had. It was picked up by a larger monitor, and they went away and they dissected those 6 speeches. They dissected them too. I mean, they went through every. Now that was education for them, because for all the confusion that they've shared with us, they that this late in the game we still don't understand. And we talk too much over how much of it we understand, which gives them mixed signals about how we will respond to it. And on May 1st, 1988, the Chicago Tribune, which is the paper in Chicago, posed to the public the content of these 6 tapes. And working for the mayor of Chicago at that time, it was supposedly unheard of that a person could work for the mayor of Chicago and have values that are within the Nation of Islam. You see, a Polish guy can work for government and be Polish, the Spanish guy can be Spanish. That's why you put them there, to rep people who make up a collection of people called the government. But as soon as you be you in one of them spots, see, we have to be clear when we're there, neutral, right? Because we protect the white man's interests first. Then we get the spot. Unless we protest, we don't get the spot. And late one night, when the one and the other one come in, I snuck the mayor's office. And I mean snuck, they didn't quite see me. And I've been monitored by the Anti-Defamation League and others prior to getting there. So while I urged quietly, we had meetings within the mayor's office, and people who usually don't come or get to see a mayor were extended these privileges as we tried to. We didn't feel we had to covertly, continuously do. And there was friction. There was friction from people who were strangling the Africans' ability, government that reflected the majority, the Winterkins, and they were neutralizing the ability of both Harold Washington and subsequent to that Eugene Sawyer to control the city that they won. You see, Bradley is the mayor, but he ain't in control. Kenny Hahn probably got more control in the city of Los Angeles than he does. Obviously, Gates don't work for him. Gates work for himself. And I suggest to you, if you look at the pattern, every former police chief became mayor. Yorty, Bradley, Gates. I suspect that the pattern is clear of how the police chief emerges to become mayor as he beats up some black people. The other will signal, be our man, and then they vote him in. So he sent the signal, he gonna do the beating, and like Bradley was, Sam Yorty was, probably end up the mayor, because he didn't pass the test. And so there was friction in Chicago. Now it was strange that the attack from the lectures that were done at the Nation started on May 1st. May 1st. God knows this day, because this is the socialist holiday. This is May Day. Now we ain't into socialism. And those who bear that ism within the community, that bring about some viewpoint that says capitalism or socialism, don't really understand that if it ain't an overall divine power in there, either one of us is going to go too far. Right. So we ain't in either one of them wings of the same problem we're suffering from, greed and anger. Therefore, when the attack came on May 1st, I felt that it was more of a cult. The Illuminati, secret society's birth was on May 1st in Bavaria, Germany, in 1776. Right. French Revolution, 1776. 1776 on the dollar.
Yes, sir.
May 1st is the date. It's the coded date. So when it comes on the 1st, it wasn't picked as any arbitrary date. And you better watch these whites. They're not just doing things. They watching the moon. We found Masonic full moons in Baltimore that only met when the full moon came. And we talking about Nancy Reagan turning to the horoscope lady to protect her husband. A science that we brought, which means they just ain't walking around, they're counting numbers. They looking at trying to turn to things that don't belong to them and find safety while there's everyone in the meantime. But they're trying to lean into, they know of the law. They are afraid of the law. The greatest of our law enforcers. And that makes them highly anxious because that's all they're for. That's the only thing that bugs them every night when they go to sleep and think about is, or if they ever got the chance, they're going to do it to us like we did to them. But that's a law. I think that's, you reap what you sow, cause and effect, eye for an eye. I can't turn that around. I can't turn around behavior. I can't turn that around. Seek to live beneath the law and do the best you can. So May 1st started an attack. The attack lasted till May 5th. There was a lot of things to the attack because nothing to do with understanding the dead beast. At that time, in fact, even here in Los Angeles, New York, every major city, articles came out attacking me about something in Chicago. Those who were around me in Chicago who really understand the depth of the information that was hidden within the lecture. You see, I'm proud of the work that I've done as a person who serves you, who within the tapes, within the lectures, have tried to identify you, someone that I suspect is out to get us. Yes, my job, I'm the ID, I'm the fingerprint man. There's been a murder. Somebody's coming in to check the evidence, and I'm the guy who dusts the stuff for the prints. Trying to of the murderer's getaway.
Yes, sir.
That's my job. I don't get called unless it's a murder. I ain't got nothing. Unless somebody done something, there's no need for what I do. So I'm here because somehow there was a problem with identifying who it was that was doing it. Who done tried to kill the Africa of color world? Who done that? And that is a crime, even under his law. And the statute of limitations on murder, not only murder of a race, never run out. It's ad infinitum if you catch a Nazi 40 years later. So we are beast hunters. We witnessed the Weisenthal Center, who even during the terror attack in Chicago put out a fundraising letter. We got a little nigga in Chicago and we need money to fight anti-Semitism. Look at him. But when they looked into those, they ran them in the public. It wasn't anti-Semitic. We even know that ain't even for it.
Yes, sir.
The term anti-Jewish, but it was more than that. There were black people, Jesse Jackson and some others who I spoke about. I loved Harold Washington, but in moments when he acquiesced with the Jewish people, there was his moments there. There was about the WASP, the White Anglo-Saxon Protestant. It was religions, government leaders. There were more people in those tapes than Jewish people. And in the tapes, they said, well, Coakley said there's a conspiracy, there's a secret society. And they made a big point of overblowing the dialogue. They went and got the Italians and said Coakley is a racist because he said Columbus didn't discover America and he was having that must be Italian activity. Whatever happens to the victim's relationships? How come the victim have no rights other than to be quiet and keep bending over? So anytime the victims talk, it's anti-something. We're put in the box of, instead of being counter something, we're anti. I am countering. You are what it is. Countering it. We're not the perpetrator here. We're the victim and we're the victimized, so we change the ships.
That's right.
So as the attack intensified, many people who stood around me in Chicago underestimated the attack from the beast. Why do I say they underestimated it? Because it very clearly in the book you have about the secret relationship of them Jewish people, the depth of the focus of pinpointing someone for what they're doing. been a lackadaisical attitude about pinpointing the perpetrators. When I wanted to play on the field, I looked up and saw people who I loved and respected, and on the field I saw an open spot called Go Backs. That was the spot. Now I thought I'd like to be some other guy in the game. I didn't know that was the spot I was going to play, but I wanted to play so bad, I tried to specialize in whodunit as my way to get on the field and play with people that I loved and respected. If you walked out in the communities and asked how many people wanted to be a freedom fighter, all raised their hand. But there's no job called freedom fighter in our community. We have not made a way for someone who wants to dedicate his life to fighting for freedom. Except maybe for the Nation of Islam. You understand that there are people who like you but got no place to go? There's no outlet for this expression of love and support for the race. So they go to work and maybe they do something they think will undermine the beast while they're there. And maybe they go to school and while there's confusion, they speak a little bit about some things and try to add some clarity. And so they try to do the best they can within their limitation of it. And the point of it is that there must be a way made for people who want to do the thing. Can walk you around the country and tell you people who now do little things like what I do. Not that it's any different, any special, anything. But they can see now that you can even make a living doing this. Yes, that you can feed your children, your people, because if you stood up for the body, help you. And so we signaled to people who wanted to do these things it was not a good occupation. You should just go on and work every day. It isn't safe. You might end up like Martin or Medgar Evers or anybody. So the question was, who want to be that? So people avoided these high-risk positions.
Yes, sir.
So when in Chicago, people looked me with tears rolling down their face. You can't back down. You can't back down. You can't give up. Because even though I'm not in that spot where the attack is on you, when you go, the spirit in me goes too. So even though I got stripped with no job, no money, left out in the bare cold, still others had to look to see that if I went down and I was somebody that they knew personally, then they wasn't going to, just based upon thinking maybe I might have had a better chance than them. So to stand up even when you get stripped is important. And always have an attitude about what you're doing. So people got coming to lecture the other night with UCLA, brother coming to meeting just to spread the fear thing. Well, brother, aren't you afraid for your life? They're going to kill you. What? Stand here before the people and not be afraid. And it was the whole thing to scare everybody else that we should be afraid of what we do. If we know the law, and the law is that we reap what we sow, what do we have to fear, right? We're not the ones that should be afraid. So I'm all excited. So it became symbolic that a guy who tried to focus, not fall, and it was not me because my body was without sleep, not much eating, trying to monitor consistently the attack. The shows I did, McNeil and Morning with Charles Carraud, this Crossfire, and all these little TV shows, and every reporter in the country trying to get in my house. Said, brother, we'd like to interview you in your home. Don't have it on. There's no interview that they can give you that's any better when it's in your house. In the market stand and with just the floor plan and where the was in relation to the window and just where you slept and how you ate and what you use when you use it was just enough information for them to set up an attack. So we leave the beast outside. The beast said, well, I won't do the interview if you don't do it like I want you to, or I didn't call you in the first place. My appeal is not to your people. My appeal to my people. You are the jury that decide which of these beasts gotta go. And we appeal to you. The only ones that matter. You're the only ones that matter to me.
Yes, sir.
Everybody say, man, it's all these white people calling me since I've been here to be on their radio and their TV. It's not for them. Now somebody say, well, brother, no, you don't want me. You want to set to attack. And I can walk in the belly of your heat without getting screamed out the problem. It's just that there's not enough followers listening to you.
Yes, sir.
And merely showing we're wiser than you on the radio ain't enough. I want to defeat you, not impress you. We mentioned when we were in Long Beach last week about symbolism amongst the Europeans. And I want to show you just this. Everybody went through this and came out. But I just want to show you these three covers as symbolism about what I think this beast is up to and why this beast is doing it. I want to make sure I get this on the camera, can be seen. These three covers, which came within 10 days of each other. These are the worldwide European maps. They're read more than read. They're a summation of the weekly news, and there are only major of them, and here they are right here, all of them within 10 days of each other. And what Cleopatra Black? What you gonna do when you find her? Early, what you gonna find? The original man, what you gonna do? Treat him right? What you trying to say? You didn't come to found that the leaders at work have known all along. You didn't come to some mass conclusion that you're going to give honor to the original people? No. This is honoring the original people. This is about talking to the middle-class white man that if you like the black man you happen to live near, you happen to work with, or the black person who you happen to mingle with, who you think ain't that person. So you don't have the will and the resolve to kill them when we ask you to. We want to let you know it for no other reason. These, when they're gone, can be what we said we were, which we knew wasn't true all along. But we got to ring the bell to you so that you will develop the psychological rationale to kill them without emotion.
That's right.
Look at this one. Lost tribe, lost knowledge. When native cultures disappear, so does their scientific and medical wisdom. Now, if that ain't a call, when you kill a group of people, their knowledge and their wisdom disappears. That don't sound like they want to Cleopatra. Now look at that red, black, and green on the cover. That's the first time, probably red, black. When you go up in here, say, you know who's responsible for all this Afrocentrism in the African community? They got a Jewish guy in here. Some guy that wrote some book called, what's that, Blackathea or something. Some mass dweller. As the one whose knowledge of ourselves, the knowledge he learned from his forefathers up in the Caucasian mountains, trying to meet the people on the other side. And all these years later, he's the one who found us, the one we found. Pain and sharing race that we were, somehow enjoying whatever we was doing on us. So we've suffered from somehow not standing post when we were supposed to. And it was nice to have them sit at our feet and learn from us, but we didn't want to believe they would do it this time later. UCLA, USC, El Caminos, California, Dominguez Hills, Long Beach State, I still got black students in it. Sitting at the feet of the one who from the very beginning ain't never done nothing but kill them and hurt them every time they saw him. And we sit at their feet and we give them $10,000, $12,000 a year to say, teach me, Father, the one who you hurt.
Yeah.
And I don't get it. Which means that after all this, there's still some doubt amongst our people about who done it. That's why I fight hard when somebody say it ain't no conspiracy, you can't get at the one who you really want to get to. I fight with them because that's the problem. Our people don't want to believe this late in the game that he still is the beast that we know him to be. He ain't never changed, he'll never change. I will suggest to you that worldwide unity is upon us. That this worldwide white unity is symbolic of the rise core of negativity. Let's just close our eyes a minute and think that in every book we read that we believe in, there's a moment that it said that the enemy would unify. And it said that they would unify in the way that there would be even just 10 centers of control for them. And that they would all bow down to whatever this thing was, and it also had control of buying and selling. And as I can see, the best I can, I looked at it was just in Washington, D.C. They got the Safeway grocery stores, probably doing it here because Safeway is same in D.C., the same Safeway here, where from your home with your universal product code box in your house, you can order all your groceries and have it delivered to your door. And you just wave your little thing over a list of grocery items that all have barcodes next to them. They got a new barcode gun now that you know how they had to wave the wand over it? Well, they got a new one now. All you got to do is walk past it.
That's right.
You don't even have to try to run it over the thing and make it beep. They don't even need to do that no more.
With the driver's license.
With the driver's license. Got it there, got it on the library cards. Right? They got a company here in California, InfoPet Incorporated, injecting a small microchip in the back of the necks of dogs and cats. It's an experiment. They say it can also be used for horses, cows, llamas, negroes, and fish. Right? Now, we also know that simultaneously there has been a surge to identify someone by their DNA gene breakdown. Now, this is the core of identity. I want you to understand there is no more finite breakdown of who you are than a DNA gene breakdown of your blood. This is the chemistry of your living parts. Now, that's a pretty heavy moment. Now, for any of you who are near new birth, watch carefully when you're in the hospital. And watch carefully what they do with the afterbirth and the other things that are removed from your body. Be very sensitive and even prepared to ask for everything.
Yes, sir.
When you leave, take everything that belonged to you. Don't leave nothing with them. You need them to have the birth, so they ain't supposed to take nothing because you're in their place. You paid for it. So you want everything. And I say that because when they go to put an identity on your child now, instead of taking the baby footprint and putting it in the ink, they take the placenta and they take it to the lab and put it on the shields and start the process of identifying your baby with a DNA gene breakdown in the form of a barcode.
They murdered mine.
Murdered yours, sister. Then that's another reason when we hold the court to indict and convict the people that did what they did to you. My brother had, and his wife had 3 miscarriages for that Agent Orange stuff. Someone must pay for these things, and when we win, we will have court. And the ones who did it, like the judgment at Nuremberg, will be brought up, and they'll stand before the court of the elders, who will rule in behalf of the evidence as to whether they deserve to live or die. These were choices that they made, and then the choice will be ours, and it'll be a righteous decision because at least we would have given them a fair trial.
That's right.
And that's our responsibility. This is no arbitrary decision about how you will handle the ones who dealt with you. We cannot deviate from the law of God. And we must deliver unto deliver to us. That was why we were put over here in this section of North America, because the baddest one of all the white boys that rose up was this one. I'm proud to be this close to him. Hell, I've lost 4 or 5 jobs. I've been stripped of everything 4 times in my life. Broke down to nothing. But I've enjoyed 4 or 5 more times to be this close to the one, because the day we pull it off, we got the one that holds the other ones together.
Yes, sir.
That's important.
Yes, sir.
That's very important. Now, some of this is in code. I tell everybody, since we up on the revolution, we be talking in code. So some things I would say, like I say, I'm for Dan Quayle for president before the election. You come to understand that means Bush must die. It's in code. And that when we say what we will do to them, we will do to them like they are a malignant cancer.
That's right.
Just like they are breaking down the DNA particles in our blood, then we're going to break down this called white supremacy, a biopsy, and we're going to identify its malignant nature. And if we decide that this malignant cancer has grown too far and is eating up the living cells of our body, and if we choose to live, this is all that matters to me. Do we choose to live? If we choose to live, then we must be decisive about the destiny of the virus.
That's right.
And if we decide that the virus is wrong, it's evil, it's negative, it stole countries, it raped babies, it smallpox children, it took the land, if that virus is that living, growing, malignant virus, then damn it, if we want to live, we're going to have to kill it. Now, a lot of people don't want to bone up to it. He can't be reasoned with. I suggest to you, he's so deep in his thing, he's too late for him now. He done barcoded the world. Airplanes, trains, buses got barcodes on them. They're injecting them into the dogs and the cats and the horses. Now when a rich businessman wants to save himself from being kidnapped, he has a little microchip put in the back of his neck and behind his ear, so that wherever he's taken, they can turn the machine on and find him. Because his beep is going to go off and it's cut up in the back of his ear. This is what they see when it gets dark. They're going to need to know how to get home, so they're going to try to beat their way back. I'm lost. Where did they take me? It's back to the hills where you came from. Right? We reserved these spots for you. We got fences around them. Right? Reservations. They've been reserved for them. So that be important to us. We watch very carefully these agents of centralization. The company that's doing the universal product coding of the babies is called Life Bank Incorporated. Life Bank Incorporated, they're paying doctors $40 for every baby they can do. So they're giving them a bound over the number. Love our children, we do. And I ain't even gonna get into this, but if you pay taxes, you know that to get your children on your tax form and to get the exemption for children, you got to get them a Social Security number. Now, it's costing me $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 a year not to turn my babies over. What am I saying? I love them enough that I will pay more money not to give up a number. I ain't going to have to keep giving the money up, because when we win, the number game is over. Right? So I see victory in sight, so I'll go on pay. I'll get my money back. We'll have all the money when we win. That won't be what will make us any better than them. It will be that we were responsible with all of the money and all of the leadership, and that what we spread with our responsibility was goodness and positive activity. We sought not to hurt enough just to have something more ourselves than what we need. We will offer something better than what they had. That's why we will incur the right to lead. If we are prepared for this, then we will get it. How will we be prepared for it? One is we will pull off of it. You got to pull off of it. It's going to be hard to pull off of it. They spent so many years getting you in it. I mean, they had riots in Chicago one Friday night when the TV went off. Actually, the electricity went off, but they wasn't asking for lights, they was asking for TV. And that's heavy.
Yes, sir.
That's a fix to it. Go out and try to have a meeting on Thursday night when they're watching Cosby and different. You can't even have no meeting because everybody TV. The football or Michael Jordan be on. See, I'm glad y'all ain't. See, they playing now. Y'all ain't there. That means that doesn't have a thing to do with your destiny. Therefore, you pulled up off of it. Pulled up off. We're trying to say that the people who run UCLA are the cutters and cutthroats who murdered our race, and if our children confuses the issue. So they must pull off, and then they're jeopardized. I won't get a job. You're not going to get a job no way, man. They ain't giving you nothing. You gotta come over here and get some bean pies and newspaper. Right? That's when you get a job with the people. No jobs for you.
That's right.
And that's the thing about changing self-sufficient. That is the revolution. Everybody talking about the revolution, right? Put on the dashiki Monday morning, they be back at work, Wazir. Toiling away, eating stuff from the white man because they can't do no better. And I know how bad you feel when you got to go there and he say, don't want to do it anyway. He say, you eat lunch now and you don't want to do it, but you do it anyway. He say, I need you Saturday, Chumpy, and you don't want to do it, but you do it anyway. And I say that when you get free, you'll be relieved about how less cancer you'll have, how little AIDS you'll have, and any other thing, because you'll feel somebody will fight off all the diseases. And this must be done for the people, for they were biting their tongues. You suppress that frustration they put in you, and you eat yourself up. So we got to relieve the people of the psychological murder that's inflicted by swallowing their spit about who done it. So we have to alleviate pressure, and the pressure will be alleviated by focusing on the viruses, because you know you can cure the disease with the antidote when you get a good reading on the depth of the virus. So if I'm describing the virus, then maybe here is the antidote. So I do the best I can to try to focus on it, specifically coming up with the right remedy. See, our people, we say we need a doctor, right? So head is hurting. They got 2Feb. And they say get a doctor, so old boy didn't understand, so he sends a podiatrist in. He's a doctor, but he take care of bunions and little toes and ingrown toenails. He can't fix the head of the teeth. So it ain't just any doctor, it's the right doctor for the right problem. And that we have to lock in on that. It isn't just any moment, it has to be a specific moment. Now I suggest that everybody don't want to win, so that's really the confusion we're having. Everybody don't want to win. They really money, we're going to do a little of this, because no big deal. We'll never whip them. You've been in the room, you'll never whip them. Well, you may never whip them. And you just need to move on off to the side and just don't get involved to stop the ones who are trying to whip us. I had a call from a guy today from a local radio station here in Los Angeles who called me because at a lecture Saturday night I mentioned the name of a guy who had been blocking me out of New York. And his name was Alambe Braff. And I mentioned his name in the lecture. I named the names. I do not duck. I sleep good at night because I get it on. So nobody blocking me. Now I've been there, but I had to then around and identify the ones who block me. Because when the people say they love it, I say, well, let's see.
That's right.
Because this is important. This probably has got some connection to do with what the thing was that was going on. So we get up, neighbors, they call me up and say, look, why are you beating on this? I knew the guy. And I don't have anything against the guy other than I was going to try to kill this virus. And he jumped up and got in the way.
That's right.
Now, he didn't know me either. And it might have been accident. But anyway, your brother's on post, and y'all moving the minister, Brother Wazir, and you've been told that you down this street, and you going down this aisle, or you going down that walkway, and I even been with the mayors, with the security, you going down that hump, you don't care who's in that line, you're moving away. Because that's how you gonna move the one you with. You will take anybody out of the way to get to the end of that mission. So when someone shows up, it's not personal. It's whoever shows up. They might be with you one day, they might fall into the aisle the next day. You have to just have a uniform way of dealing with them every day so that they understand you're on a mission. When they know you're serious,
That's right.
they will give you a... You know how people act differently when the Muslims are around? They put the cigarette away. They got the pork, they're trying to cover their sandwich up. This has on perception, behavior, and character, and they feel the weight. Now, I can feel the weight. You'll see the brother with the paper. They try to walk on the other side of the street. What is the pressure that they feel? You don't have hands on them. By what authority do they feel this pressure? The authority that you incur for being righteous, and they feel the pressure, and you don't even need to put your hand on them. By what authority do I feel this pressure? So I told the brother, I said, yeah, listen, the brother will never have a problem with me as long as he don't show up in the path. It's nothing about him personally. And I suggested to the brother that he should go and talk to the brother. And talk to him in a way that he would come in. And if it is that he isn't who we thought we was, then we can expect a lot of support from him in the future. That's how we'll measure that it must have been a mistake. Because how could you hear it and not like it? So we'll get that worked out very soon. Even in New York, very good to me, protect me. We had a little situation, walk out the slave theater in Brooklyn. All of a sudden, 3, 4, 5 little young brothers start drifting over to where we standing like they have this fight. And all they doing is falling over into the circle where at the end of the lecture, 25, 30 of us stood outside and talked. Brothers were there from the nation and the other brothers around the slave theater, and they drifted into us. This little fight with the guns hanging off their hands, and brothers moved in and moved them off the path. Moved the fight, moved the whole operation off, and as soon as they were pushed away, they stopped fighting. Because that was a fake fight. I could tell the way they was hitting each other wasn't right. Brothers moved the car up off the curb. Everybody got in ready position. Then we jumped on and moved on away. Down in Dayton, Ohio, under attack at a conference down in Ohio for the Dayton Black Cultural Festival, where they had Naeem Akbar and Steve Coakley, and the Jewish community said Coakley can't speak. Well, you can have Akbar. You can have Naeem Akbar, and it's not in disrespect to the brother, but they looked around and decided that one could and one couldn't. The question becomes the difference in the two. They black things, sweating and spitting on the front row and getting sweaty and fighting real hard, and we both huffing and puffing. But there's a difference in how we operate, so there's a difference in what is acceptable and what is unacceptable. I'm ruthless about it. I'm in it to the end, and they know the difference. So I don't get all the privilege pressures and the pleasures that others are given, and I'm singled out sometimes for being associated with profound, clean, good-living people themselves. Imagine being chased out of a mayor's office for giving a speech with good smoke, don't drink, don't use profanity, live and be self-supportive. Hey, what is this about? If that ain't straight one for you, imagine. So from that I conclude this must be the devil that we're pinpointing. Because who else would be against such good living and association?
That's right.
Who would be against that but the... who is manifested in the form of certain Europeans who meet at certain places at certain times, run certain institutions, and have done certain... Right? So these must be the chiefs of whatever will run when the nations centralize. The nations have centralized. Here's a little piece. This is in a British newspaper. August 25th, 1991. Unraveled Bush set to police the planet. I want to show this. This is a British newspaper.
Yes, sir.
Now the British, who were the colonialists that helped this New World Order, helped colonize Africa with Cecil Rhodes and Lord Rothschild. We talk about Rothschild because the Jewish people always like to say they was never in it. But we know they was in it. We know the days they were in it. Everybody into the X. When Cecil Rhodes left his will, in his third will, he left everything he had to Mr. X, and they ain't talking about Malcolm or X-American. X was the code name for Lord Rothschild. And we're going to talk about that from one of the beastly books.
Yes, sir.
Because we quote the good white sources, because we need these good white sources and make the people believe. The collapse of the math of the coup leaves the United States the one unchallenged and unchallengeable world. Unchallengeable. Brother, we've been challenging them every day.
That's right.
They have been challenged, and they feel, look, why do you think the FBI coming home? I said, look, white boys, we better close down quick and get united. I see the black men and women coming.
Listen.
In other words, if we weren't as close to them as we are now, it'd be 1999 when Europe got together. They would have took the wall down in 2010.
Listen.
They make money off of war. They had to come up with a new gimmick called savings and loan scandal to make money now. They used to just use the war to make the money to build the bombs that they never built anyway. We never checked, so we never cared. They give up $95 billion the night before Thanksgiving to pay out for savings and loan. $95 billion will take you 365 years to give away. If you gave away $1 million a day. Money, we can't even conceive of it. The point of it is they can get us because we're not tending to the guard, and they can rape us with those earthly games.
That's right.
Confidence.
That's right.
As they call it, is confidence game.
Yes,
C-O-N period. F-I-N-C. Confidence. And the point of that is that possibly they have studied us well enough to know that if they don't move now, 499.5 years of white supremacist activity will go down the drain. So they have decided that this will be the moment when they unite to find the common enemy. I had to find a clue about who the common enemy was.
Yes, sir.
I'll show you this story up here. James Baker, head of the State Department, goes to the Soviet Union to meet with the KGB. When he meets with the KGB, this becomes a historic meeting. The head of the KGB and the head of the State Department meeting. How times KGB welcomes Baker. Now, we had spoken for years about the white brotherhood, meaning that though they appeared to be enemies, they were together all along. We talked about that for years. If you go back to tapes of the nation, go back to even old Savior's Day tapes and pick up the little Coakley versions, and you will see very clearly we predicted very accurately every little thing that the white would do to force up his unification as if it was some accidental theory of unity. This had been planned years ago. So it says here, new chief asked, who's our enemy? The white Russian and the white American are looking for someone to duke. Now I suggest to you that the FBI, we don't use the word hello, we don't say it, we say good afternoon. Anyway, we'll talk about that in a minute.
Yes, sir.
He says that this is who we're looking for. We're looking for an enemy. And I suggest to you that we're it. And I suggest to you that when the FBI counterintelligence force, was that the new paper that come out, brother, that you had up here? Was the article in there about the FBI coming into them urban cities? Using a counterintelligence specialist. Now, if I'm a good at naming the names, don't put me on post to spot flies, because I'm better at naming names than squatting flies. So let me do what I was built to do. So if I'm an FBI, and I'm a counterintelligence expert, and I've been all over the world counterintelligencing people. You ain't gonna bring me back to the urban city, and all of a sudden I'm good at making biscuits. Now I'm gonna start making ham hock. That's out of nature. He makes no decisions. They call him with the decisions. He says, yes, Mr. Hahn. Yes, Rabbi. Yes, yes, Mr. Hollywood director. Yes, Mr. Bush. Yes, 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 yes. Yes. Yes, yes. And every time we get out of hand, they're the ones sent to hold us back. Deacons holding back the black people from going after the Korean. Rarely on TV, holding back the black people from going after the Korean. See, Korea got more lobbyists in America. Lobbyists represent their interests for money.
That's right.
That's how they got that relation. Koreans donate money to Bradley.
Yes, sir.
Right? And so that's and obviously they got protection. They can murder without going to jail. Here's a man who's coming to murder without going to jail. And I suggest to you, just like I suggest about Gates, that is not where we will seek justice. Justice is in our hands. We have the authority to execute the justice based upon prayer and the best possibility of identifying who done it. We have the right to execute when our mind is sound that this is the right decision. We have right. We can use it. It is ours. We are the victims. Anyway, right, as in code, not code talk. Say when we have clubhouse meeting, we're gonna meet at the Price Club, we're gonna meet at Sam's, that's what we hold in club. That's a cold check. Okay? So this unity of these white forces. Here's another article you'll see here. There's an interesting one. This is from Chicago Sun-Times, December 29th, 1991, when Europe went shopping in Africa. Is that what it says? When Europe went shopping in Africa. It's about when Europe went shopping in Africa. Notice the white man at the top got the gun. The black man at the bottom got the spear. The black man's arms are open like, kill me. The white man got the gun like, I'm coming for you. And it says, subtitled, The Scramble for Africa. The white man's conquest of the dark continent. That means that he conquested it, he ain't gave it back yet. That means that we must secure it. The case in point to that is that he has even admitted to us that he has taken something that didn't belong to him. And that only means that we can right the wrong as he described it to us, that we have again incurred this right. So here come this FBI within these urban cities. In Washington, D.C. is where they developed the model to go get the FBI to put them in urban cities. Washington, D.C. is black. The blacks have the whites and the white institutions surrounded. They cannot get away unless they jump in the Potomac River. We have them surrounded. We might not know, all of us, that we got them surrounded, but they're hearing it now. Hey, look, we got them surrounded. You know how you get when you look up and notice something? All of a sudden you've been out, we got them surrounded. And he looks up and says, oops, they got me surrounded. The lights went out in Washington, D.C. about 3-4 Mondays ago. The White House went out. That was the Monday before Bush fell out on Wednesday. From what they call a syncope, which is a temporary loss of oxygen to the brain. But they say he had the flu. That's not one of the symptoms of flu. So we know even he having a hard time. In the real world, having been a killer, he might be killed by the ones he know kill because he been with them killing him. So that's goose in the gander. He understand that game. So he ain't got no problem about that because he been a part of it. So he's in the reap what you sow. I'm in the in crowd. That's what the in crowd do. So he understand that. But we need to understand that there are people after him and they're of his own race. And that the Zionists and the Wasp are fighting and they're of their own race. And this is important for us because in the end, when they have risen as far as they can go, the signal is for us to take over. It's like the Tower of Babel all over again. He has risen as far as he can go. Now we can't understand each other anymore. This is a signal for us that there's going to be a full direction and control of the country. And it's just going to open up. All you got to do is step in it. And it's going to open up because part of what we need done, they're going to do for us. Just like they helped us do it to us. We sold some of us to him. Right? Boulay, the black male society. Bradley in it, Dinkins in it, Wilder in it, Jackson in it, Jacobs of the Urban League in it, Hoops, Crooks in it. When they get in these things and they agree to be a part of these secret societies, and they take that secret society and go out and serve the white man, have relationships where they're serving out of these secret societies, and hey, it'd be clear to us that the law had to work uniform so that when these guys don't fight, and we send them there to fight, then when we pass judgment, we terminate, then we determinate. Right? We have the right to determinate is in the power of terminating. Yeah, and we humbly accept this responsibility. Humbly. So now that the FBI has come and targeted the youth, as Brother Wazir said, and the paper says as they have targeted the youth, why do you target the young black male? Now I just have to slide over, sister, this is not in disrespect for you. For they know that possibly you are the strongest elements of our race. You have been the most consistent and continuous. They also know that as time has passed, the most overt, angriest element of the race is the young black male. And before you kill the race, you theorize that this young black male who has no stake in the system, ain't up in UCLA, ain't got the car note, the house note, sitting up on the rap music, listening to the Farrakhan tape, listening to Copley tape, hearing from Dr. Listening up and sitting down and saying, you know, I ain't been to school, but I'm pretty damn smart. I done had enough of this. So he sits up and he starts identifying people he don't like. Kill the police. Get to Arizona people. They sitting up singing a song about another day. You'll see white people sitting up in FBI, slowing down the tape trying to hear what the rap music saying. You heard the Jamaicans do it? Jacobs, Jamaican brothers be doing it? And they sitting up trying to decode it. What are they saying? What are they saying? Trying to figure out what is going on, and it's in code. They can't get it. That's right. But the youth who were denied the opportunity of knowledge got the knowledge anyway, who sat at the feet of brothers like this and then went out and told their story in music. And though they can't read that well, they can't write, some of them can't even read or watch without a digital on it. I was shocked. As I sit with the brothers, they can't even tell time, some of them. Unless it's a digital, making an easement for them. So easy they negate their responsibility. But somehow, in spite of all of that, they have gotten the message. I remember it started with don't believe the hype. Right? And you go through all of that, you're not doing too bad because of that. Meaning that if you listen very closely, you'll hear yourselves emulated between the lines. Subtly, subliminally, without being in the room. Maybe they may not ever make it to the meeting. But they have internalized that amongst you, there is respect. So what happens if these brothers and these brothers were the enforcers of our community and everybody had to abide by the jurisdiction of the elders and the discipline of the enforcers? There's a way already paved very subliminally for that to be an accepted way of life. In every city you stand up as a model. Don't bend your value. The people are watching you. You are in the position to do things for our race that are comparable to none within this country.
That's right. Yes, sir.
Case in point, we're going through a transformation of trying to establish a way of life the day after the beast is no longer a problem. So if we study our history of our own evolution and involvement, credit must be given where credit is due. So it may seem like some don't want to listen or are not willing to obey at a moment when the I'll be telling them. How many, anybody here an informant? Anybody here informant? If you're an informant, raise your hand. Let's be like church. If you want to come up front and be baptized, come on. The point I make about that is that if you choose to serve the white man, you're good as long as he winning. but the day he lose. You ever seen them dudes? They was KGB, right? They had a revolution over there in the Soviet Union. They was KGB, right? Well, the day after the KGB, the dude was running around one day saying, "Give me this war, I'm KGB." Well, when the KGB lost, that dude changed clothes. He went outside. He said, "Hey, there he is, KGB." He said, "No, man, I'm ABC. I ain't no KGB. I don't know what you talking about." In other words, when the other people won, the people who exercised their authority and disrespected the people immediately had a change of heart. Not that their heart changed, but the circumstances changed their heart. So some people, because they want to, but when you win, they will be with you because they must, or they will stick out and be obstructionists, and they don't want that. They want to submerge themselves. I suggest to you that you live your life like you want to be judged forever. Don't goof it off today, doing something that's counter the race, counter the community, counter what must be done, because that's only good as long as he's winning, because the day he loses, we got a new value system to measure everybody by.
Think about it.
And that's right, it has to be made, it has to be thought. Don't take a shot with him now, he's on his way down.
Right.
That's why we always say at the end of the meeting, we'll meet the informants in the back, on the side. I want you to keep informing. I probably have employed thousands of people just trying to keep up with what I'm doing. You, the nation, have probably employed millions of people every day watching who come up and talk to you. "Hey, brother, what's going on?" Is it you? I hear the stuff. "Brother Steve, be at next." Somebody called me up. "Brother Steve, what time are you leaving to go to the nation?" "Well, brother, you gonna be there?" "No." I said, "Well then," I almost cussed. What does that mean to you? Right? Because I almost told you what I told him. So I got a little alarm that go off when I hear those questions that cross the line. "Brother Steve, where'd you say you was going to be next week?" "I'm sorry, brother, I never said where I was going to be next week. What did you think you heard?" Right? When I say, "Hey, brother, what you think happened to Brother Wali?" I said, "I don't know. What you think?" He said, "Brother, I think he was stressed out." "Oh, you think he was stressed out?" "Well, brother, what do you know?" "Well, actually, brother, I don't know nothing." "Well, then, brother, why are you spreading the rumor that you think he was stressed out?"
That's right.
Listen to the language as they talk to you. Say, "Well, hey, brother, people, it's social workers. You got alcoholism treatment workers, mental health treatments, the WARE worker, the community organizer worker, who every time they go to the meeting, got to fill out a meeting form." "Well, who was at the meeting?" "The Nation of Islam, Steve Coakley, Brother Marcus, Sister Tiombe, Brother Wazir." "Well, what did they say they were going to do at the meeting?" "Well, in a forceful presentation, Brother Wazir said, we need to quit bending down to this beast." Blank, 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 blank. "Well, what did they say they were going to do next?" Now, if you in one of them social service agencies and you getting that funding, we know the only way you get funded is if you fill out the form. Every time you go outside your building, you got to account for your time. Every one of them patients, what is a white man afraid of? He's afraid of some stressed out mental health person who don't know enough to be scared of him, who walks up in Beverly Hills or Bel Air one night, start kicking butt, saying they must be crazy. See, they locked me up, threw me in the crazy house, April 1st, 1975. That's how I got started. That's right, I got started in the crazy house. Well, I must have been crazy because when they told me they would kill me if I didn't back down, they said, "Well, you must be crazy." Because they live in the material world and they expect every evaluation is material, so when you don't talk materially back to them, you have to be transferred to the mental yard because that's where they go to try to put the fear back into you. Everything I ever had has been dealt to the day that I was locked up. And it was getting out that was my resurrection. It took me 5 days to get out. Had a big march for the 4th. They didn't let me out to the 5th. My mama, daddy was scared. My friends were scared. My uncle, cousins were afraid for my life. I felt fine. I really didn't know what the big hullabaloo was. But just like in '88, you underestimate the reaction to the beast to a certain type of action. I say, "Well, why are they reacting to this? He ain't number one person. I ain't got no organization." "What's so right? He ain't got no organization." Jackson and Howard. "Well, what do you think of Steve Coakley?" I've been lecturing Howard 19, 20 times a year. He said, "Well, what do you think of Steve Coakley?" He said, "Well, that Coakley, he ain't got no organization. Talking all that old babbling stuff about conspiracy. Nobody want to hear that." So brother said, well, look, I ain't in this organization. I would if he had one, but if he ever asked me, I'd help him. If when he's there, I'll do what he asks. When I get the tape, I'll do what the tape say do. So then someone else will say, well, actually, I like Brother Coakley, Mr. Jackson. What do you? So after a while, and they attacked him for it, he said, well, you know, maybe Coakley ain't so bad. But the point of it was that in 1990s, you must have covert action, guerrilla war.
That's right.
That's the war of the 90s. It is very difficult to sustain an overt organization. You could speak of the pains. I remember when the old days when people was cutting the wires in the nation and jamming the phone lines and cutting the gas lines, just walking around the building saboteuring things. These are things that people incur the right to do over time by doing everything everybody say, even for no money. So they get rewarded. But then they got outside money that we can't count on, and we confuse their behavior as being loyalty. And over time, they have found out that takes time. Because over time, behavior surfaces. Because humans are susceptible to error, and even the best of them slip up. So the identity comes at the appropriate moment. But the whole point to all of that is about our ability to organize and to align ourselves around certain things that are going to us. What I want to do quickly is to show you a few things. In fact, this is the form. I don't know if they got this out here. They call it the Savings Club. This is the Safeway form that they put out, that if you just fill this out with Safeway, you can get in the Savings Club, and you got to give them your home, your work phone, your license and passport number, Social Security number, phone. Now, when somebody wants your passport number to get an easement at a food store, now you know passports are coded too. Got the barcode right on the passport. I don't use them myself, though we do get around. Right? Just because he say that's how you travel don't mean you have to travel that way.
That's right.
So we know we can get around. So in Washington, D.C., they sent the FBI into the community first. They have a black female mayor there, Sharon Pratt Kelly. Now, I was suspicious of this Sharon Pratt Kelly because when she became mayor, when it came down to where did she get her votes from, city's all black. She got her votes, because it was 6 or 7 of them running, she got her votes from the all-white ward, and the mixed white ward, and the upper class black ward. That's why brothers couldn't win when they was running out there. Because the white ward, the upper class ward, and the black ward all think alike. Upper class black ward. And just them together voting is enough to block out everybody else. Will not liberate our people. Politics will not liberate our people. Infiltrate it if you choose to. But don't identify it as a source of liberation. Politics will not whip white supremacy. It won't do it. Therefore, those excursions or those moments that we spend there should expose the contradiction that it don't work. Because the best man don't always win. That's why we know it ain't right. That's why they like it so. Because in a good game like that, the worst man can always win. And if you check carefully, and I'm sure they got out here, they got that punch card vote. Got that computer thing? Now, how many of y'all ever worked in the polls before, where you worked in election day, and before you start up, they probably run a card through the machine to show you that the machine is empty. In fact, it's a white card. It's called a zero card. It's programmed to say 0, 0, 0. So when you run the zero card through, of course it says 0. But if you were to punch an 8 in a card and run the card through to see if only 8 show up, that would be a test of whether the machine worked. Found out that 30% of the machines don't add correctly. 30%, that's enough to control any election. If you got 30% of the machines that only do what you say do. That's only 30% of the people is enough to win most of these little elections, which are not ratifications of the people. Most of the people have chosen not to do it at all. That's ratification enough not to ever do it. Most of the people have chosen not to do it at all, which means it's not a source. It's not a source of direction. Who has emerged as the engineers of the upcoming New World Order? There's a phrase called G7. I want you to be familiar with this phrase because it's strange that they used the 7. And it's interesting that they used it and called it G7.
That's right.
The G7 met last week in New York. G7. The G7 are, how you doing, sister? Good to see you again. G7 are the 7 industrialized nations led by the United States that control money policy through the world. It's important when we want to understand the satanic nature of the emerging New World Order, we recognize that it is the money boys who are the engineers of the New World Order. The money boys, it's not the army. It's not Schweizkopf. It's not Butt Powell.
That's right.
We call him Butt Powell because that's what a colon is. It's a butt. So it's named Butt Powell. I don't mean Butt Powell. I mean Butt, B-U-T-T, Powell. Butt Powell. So it ain't them that make the decisions, right? And so these engineers of the New World Order are money people. They're stakeholders. One of the places they hang out is the Paris Club. How many of y'all ever been to a Paris Club meeting? I have yet to find a black person yet that's been to a Paris Club meeting or could tell me 2-3 people they thought ever been there. But the Paris Club, brothers and sisters, see, when we call out, and brother, you indicates about time. Like I say, I go till Tuesday. Please just give me some time. Tell me what kind of time we got. Okay, I'll take 30. Because it'll take an hour, so I'll squeeze that into half an hour. Okay, I do the best I can, but here I come. G7. That these money engineers hang out at the Paris Club. So we be familiar with the Paris Club, and there's a newspaper called the Financial Times. Get that newspaper. It costs $1.25 a day. Now that's a lot of money for a newspaper. And in 5-6 days of that, you'll spend $10. But it will give you an honest dialogue of the beast and its money, because you got to focus on the money part of this beast. And the Paris Club is where they meet at. And if you got any friends in France, in Paris, France, ask them to search them out for you. We're in pursuit of the meeting where the beast goes, where the families decide what they shall do with the people. In other words, our goal is to search down and track this beast. We're following his prints. We've watched him murder, we've watched him kill, we've watched him assassinate, we saw him neutralize COINTELPRO, and all these other things. So we're in pursuit of him. This is a game of the hunter and the hunted. So as we're going down this game, we have identified as a track the Paris Club. We also found out that every time a country of his, some group organized around a certain set of laws, in on the money game, they go to the National Monetary Fund and the world to get right to the money of the ones who hold the money. Now, whenever I've asked Brother Wazir in any city I've ever gone to, I've gone to most of these colleges that most of them respect. I've gone to every group in the country with dashikis, and brother, they African to the bone. When I ask them who run the IMF and the World Bank, they do not know. Now, my point is that the Africans, who they say they support and love, are being boxed in by the loan agreements of the IMF and the World Bank. Now, if we want to help Africa, we can't wear the clothes. We got to take the pressure off of the Africans from the ones who are pressurizing them. Which means that if the IMF are doing it, and the World Bank is doing it, and they're on 1900 Pennsylvania Avenue in Washington, D.C., and we got Washington, D.C. surrounded, then we can do something for the African that he can't do for himself. Yes, sir. But then if we don't know that this is where we're supposed to go, because there's a conspiracy to keep you away from certain places, then we have to work very hard to put the focus back on them so that we know that's the spot we got to go to get the records that will tell us how they put the thing together.
Yes, sir.
We know that the IMF and the World Bank are attached to something called the United Nations. United Nations. Just yesterday, in your LA Times front page, over the article on the anti-terrorism unit chaired by Gates' brother. That's the bottom story. So that you can go back and check it, because you need to check on this anti-terrorist unit of the LA Police Department, because I suspect that because we're tired of being victims, we must be considered terrorists. Victims of terrorism are called terrorists. That's right. 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 to our brother Gaddafi. I sense danger for our brother in Cuba, Castro. I sense danger for our brother Lieutenant Rawlings. I sense danger, Brother Wazir, for the nation of Kenya, who has allowed brothers and sisters from here to go over and share in the benefits of black knowledge, to bring back an antidote to the exterminating element that was supposed to wipe us. And under the guise of democracy, they're destabilizing African countries. Right. World leaders urge UN to safeguard rights everywhere. Now, how could the United Nations safeguard rights when they and the ones who founded them? Do you know who founded the United Nations? The Rockefeller family. The Rockefeller family built the land and built the building and picked the people who wrote the treaty, period. They met right up here in San Francisco to build a treaty that now is the center treaty for the unity of the world. And they have something there called the Security Council. This is the highest element of the United Nations. And what would Armageddon? Yeah, that's a good word. Yes. Anyway, it says here that world leaders, this is the first paragraph, world leaders meeting in the first Security Council summit in history. And as I said last night, that this will soon be called the Supreme Security Council. Supreme, they will identify it as the highest source of security. Bush is the chief of police. Washington, D.C. is the headquarters. And we got it what? That's surrounded. It's not surrounded. It's surrounded. We got it surrounded. We got it surrounded. Yes. Because they must know that when we say that, we mean that. And when they hear you say surrounded, they say, oh yeah, he said it, but they didn't believe it. Even if you ain't woke, you got it surrounded just standing there. World leaders meeting in the first Security Council summit in history pressed the United Nations to abandon its tradition of non-interference in the internal affairs of countries. They're going to disengage the tradition of non-interference in countries. Now, what do that mean? You're going to take away the support and protection of a sovereign nation? Now, I'm telling you, you ain't never heard it ever before. That is the language of overthrowing the African countries. Listen.
That's right.
World leaders meeting in the first Security Council summit in history pressed the United Nations to abandon its tradition of non-interference in the internal affairs of countries. That's deep. Now, I just suggest to you that that is the rallying call that will signal. Yeah, well, you know, I seen in the paper the other day, Kenya ain't democracy. So they took Kenya's IMF money. They done neutralized Kenya's World Bank money. Now, what is Kenya? If you control the government of Kenya, you control the laboratories of Kenya.
That's right.
Right?
That's right.
So if Kenya has materialized as a medical solution to a white attack genetic with the HIV retrovirus. That's why I want to put the retrovirus in, because they drop it and leave. And it don't come due until after they've gotten away. That's why the prints are so foggy. Anyway, HTLV3 retrovirus to be exact. Anyway, this attack, neutralized by the Kenyan government, is now found the Kenyan government being neutralized. And I make a point of that. Remember Brother Ortega down there in Nicaragua, who had overthrown that dude, what's his name? He was a killer, Somoza, with the Sandinistas. Then they went back and took the country back from him in an election. That's right. They couldn't beat him in a war, so they beat him in an election. Don't ever fall for the solution to a disagreement with the beast. We can't do it that way. The IMF, the World Bank, the G7, the annual economic summits, the Bilderberg Group, the Trilateral. Look at the Trilateral Commission. In '72, the Trilateral Commission brought three sides of something together, and it forms a triangle when you bring it together. Their position papers are called triangle papers. They meet every 3 months. They have one big meeting every 9 months. And they work in 3-year phases called trillenniums. Now that ain't no arbitrary language. So you're right. They're just not picking up things arbitrarily. So they had a big meeting in Paris, and they based down the triangle, and it looks more like a pyramid than a triangle. The Paris Plan area in '89. It is the Trilateral Commission that set up the G7. So when for years everybody said that the Trilateral Commission had no impact on what was going on with what the Europeans and Americans were doing, they said this thing has no power. Well, it emerged the G7, and the G7, along with the Supreme Security Council, have been identified as the engineers to police the New World Order.
Yes, sir.
And Rockefeller did them both. Very correct. And then we know that they hold these things together with symbolism for secret societies. We talk about the Masons. We talked about them the other day. Need to talk about this guy Lafayette. They got Lafayette Street here. I got to go down and look at it. Because I have got a park named after it. Probably got a statue there, and I bet you if you look at it carefully, if it is there, it's loaded with Masonic symbolism, because he was the one that brought the apron to George Washington that had the skull and bones on it. In the Virginia Masonic Temple in Arlington, Virginia, there's a picture of an apron that Lafayette gave to George Washington, and a skull and crossbones on it. And we know that George Washington's Bible, which sits in that Virginia Masonic Temple, ain't never moved until George Bush got made president. And that means even though George Bush don't want to admit, and the Masons don't want to admit to do with any of that, that is Masonic society, we Masons wouldn't give up their book to a non-Mason.
That's right.
Right? And we know that to be true.
Teach, brother.
And then he talked about 1776. Isn't it strange that the French Revolution came up with a symbolic color for their, what was it? Red, white, and blue. So when they broke away over here, they came up with a symbolic color for their flag. What color was it?
Red, white, and blue.
And when the Soviet Union joins in the combine, they come up with some new colors. What were they? Red, white, and blue. Now, I get the impression that the New World Order is going to use red, white, and blue as the symbolism, and like a blue and red, we know that means charge. Right? That's in code. All they wear, red, white, and blue, shall be charged. Very important. Very important. And code. Check, check. You get a code, say check. I just left Notre Dame University. I was surprised they had me there. They have a building there at Notre Dame called Theodore Hesburgh Center for International Studies. Theodore Hesburgh is the Catholics man in the New World Order program. He sits on the board at Chase Manhattan Bank. He's on the Trilateral Commission. He's in the Council on Foreign Relations Board of Directors. So when I go to Notre Dame, I say special message to Theodore Hesburgh. Because anywhere we go, we can find somebody, how they connect. The Catholics sitting there in the Godfather Part 3. The man turned to the Godfather, the new Godfather, and said, hey, we got to help our friend the Pope. He said, he got too many enemies for me to help him out. What he was suffering from was an attack from the P2 Masonic sect, who had infiltrated the Catholic Church, because there was argument over whether or not, as we know they do when they go in Masonry, when they get higher, they change the books. So since we know they changed the books, and since we know that within that there was a fight between the Pope over whether or not someone should be allowed to change the book. In this book here, Behind the Lodge Door, by Paul Fisher, on the Catholics and Masonry and some Albert Pike stuff. Albert Pike is in here too. He's on that Masonic statue at Wilshire, the Wright Street. Wright Street that intervenes with Crenshaw and Black Street. That's where your Masonic things sit at. Right? Come together, the Black Street and the White Street. Which means we all should know the way there. I hear you can have meetings there. I said last night, we ought to have a meeting in there. Have meetings in this Masonic temple. Well, see, I felt that we should have a meeting, and while we're meeting, some people should go up the stairways into the basement and look around. Might be some stolen ancient Egyptian African things there that belong to us. We'll need to secure them. Anyway, just quickly. In this book, it just talks about how Pope John Paul tried to throw the Masons out. So he died in his 33rd day in office. Pope John Paul II tried to throw them out, and he got shot in the belly. So now everything is so they've come out with some agreement that they're still going to be there, and they're still there. But enough, it's a little part in here by Albert Pike. I want to read you this. And this is when we know they're satanic. You see, when we study Cecil Rothschild, we find specific moments in their life when they admit that there's no God. And they turn to each other and say, you know, should we take over that country? They say, oh, I don't know, but if there's a God, I ain't going to mess with him. So then at different times, somebody gets in the room, you know how they say, man, don't be worried about no God, ain't no God. Let's go get them. So then they want to be the God on earth. They're going to be the Lucifer. They're going to overthrow all of God's forces and resources, so they just going to act like it ain't none. So there's moments when you find Cecil Rhodes say, it's in this book right here by John Flint, there ain't no God. So when he decides there ain't no God, he say, well, good, I'll go take Africa. As he's being initiated into the Masonic lodges of England. But in this book here, Albert Pike has a quote. And the quote says, trust no man who believes in heaven, for he'll acquiesce with misery while he's on earth. I think that was a profound statement from the Masonic boys, who are allegedly non-religious. And their point to them, their activity is that they are the here and now boys. They're the linear boys, just do stuff. They just do stuff. It's just solo activity. So you got this sister here in a fight where the white people just doing stuff and she want to curb what they're doing and bring it around for retribution. And she's filled with the spirit of retribution. That is a revolutionary spirit. Because she knows that the linear behavior has gone on so long that everybody expects the thing to keep going like that. But you got to put that bin in their activity and bring it all around and make it 360. So when people arise that want to put the bin in the linear activity of the whites and make them comply with the law of what go around, there's always trouble. So we be aware of that, because it is the deliverers of those laws who will be most responsible. Listen very carefully as time passes. I see this movie JFK out here. I look at the little young white kids turn to their daddies and mamas and say, hey, you know, daddy and mama, was you in on this? How did we get control of this thing, democracy? Why was John Kennedy shot? I don't believe you anymore. And we need this in their household. This is very important, that it be in their household that they have rivalry. It's very important for all of us. And we need to be very conscious of that. Be alert of the group called FEMA, Federal Emergency Management Agency. I'll be back here in 2 weeks. I'm going to give a big lecture on FEMA, because we need to be aware of the agency. In fact, they did in Time magazine called Doomsday Hideaway. It's about the little spot in the mountain in Virginia where the white people are supposed to go when civil disturbance breaks out. And it used to be under the context of nuclear. Now since there ain't nobody to drop the bomb, we must be it. But I suggest that they also base out here in LA. I hear they even got a spot out here at the airport where the anti-terrorist unit of the LA Police Department hang out with the FBI, CIA, and the military, dug down deep in a bunker at the airport. We need to look at these things. So we need to be conscious of the desire to suspend a phony constitution and impose martial law on the people under the guise of fighting crime in the urban community.
Yes, sir.
Under the guise of drugs, they have cul-de-sac your neighborhoods, put concrete barricades, blocking off streets so you can only leave by one or two ways. So we must have some system in case it's necessary that we move in the way we choose to. Break your streets down with a map, and if the lights went out, know just where you're supposed to be at. Work these things out now and there's no conflict. When the lights went out in Washington, D.C., and FEMA, Federal Emergency Management Agency, television to declare that the white people are safe. They declared that they were safe when the lights went out, because when the lights went out, they all said the lights went out, we're surrounded. They feared for their life when the light. And I suggest to you that it might be bad weather on the day it happens. It might be an earthquake, a tornado, a hurricane. But don't you back down and cuddle up and go in, you come out. Because it may whip and whine and work its way around such that when it finishes, there wasn't nobody left with us.
Yeah.
That may happen.
Yes, sir.
The only point to that is that even if AIDS was sent to us, we might not be the ones to die from it. I seen them trying to kill a rat. They ain't killed the rat yet. They ain't killed the roach. The roach everywhere. Roach everywhere. Roach taking over. I don't care if it's Orkin, Snorkin, the fire department, Rays. Ain't nobody stopping the roach. Right? So I suggest that as they have done these things to us, we have built up a resistance to them that has no antidote that will remove us. Therefore, we will remain. And since we be here, here, then we must decide to live and live in peace. And we must be prepared to deal with them to guarantee the peace that we need. This emerging New World Order was done through blood and death. They killed to get it. And I suggest that we listen carefully. We must see who it is amongst them that are up to claim control of all of this. One thing I know about white people, the reason we can verify what they've done in books is that when you do it, it ain't no good till you tell somebody. You know how you cuddled up with somebody real privately? All saying, but then you get around your buddies a couple hours later, everybody sitting around talking about what they done lately. And you slip up and say, guess who I was with last night? Not because it's important for them to know, but you want them to look favorably upon what you've done by telling them what you did, even though it was supposed to be a secret. The white man is told on himself because there's no fun doing things to people without telling them you've done it. So we know the CIA killed Kennedy and Mark, and the CIA did the COINTELPRO. They like telling on themselves because that way you can give them the appreciation for being the beast that they are. Right. Therefore, if we watch carefully, we should pick up subtle signals about who it is amongst them that they have identified as the one that they will bow down to. Someone amongst them will make them bow down, and they will give homage to that person. I remember in Living Color, when they did the thing about whether homie would sell out. And they played it all year long. When homie sell out, and homie looked like he was going to sell out. He waited and waited and waited until what happened? Until Big Daddy materialized out of the clouds. When Big Daddy showed up, homie beat him with his thing. I ain't selling out. He beat him down, but he had to draw him out. We must draw the beast out of the cave into the light. And like Dracula, he cannot suck blood in the daytime. Therefore, we know not to fight him in the cave. That's not the place to fight him. Don't fight him on his home field. Sit out and talk about, hey beast, you ain't nothing. Come on out here. And if you whoop him long enough, his arrogance will make him out. You remember in the first Godfather, what happened to Sonny? They knew that if you got Sonny real hot in the head and worked him up just right and messed with his sister, you could get him to run out alone where he was unprotected. So if you can guarantee that we know this beast is not at peace with himself, that's why he can't live with us, his father, in peace. Because he's uneasy, he's insecure, he's sick, he's pathological. So we know that it wouldn't be hard to know the chemistry to draw him out. So we have all these fights with him and look at all this excessive beast coming out. I remember when the minister did the interview at the Washington Post. The question they asked was, you still helping that Steve Coakley? And everybody had to pause and stop like, why would they be asking so late way up here about a brother way back over there? The important thing is that the beast was drawn out. He was forced to have to reveal himself. If it ain't nothing to it, what's the fight? Just let me go on out and be a kook. I've been a crazy, that's called me crazy. Right. But the point is that the pinpoint is in there about the virus, and they hope you don't pick up on it. In this little program that we have today, I couldn't do justice to all the things I need to say with you. We're sharing more spirit than us. I suggest to you that the tapes and the videotapes that I have back there are a better representation of the Rhodes Rothschild Secret Society, secret societies in New World Order down in Dallas, an analysis of FEMA, an analysis of coup d'etat in America. It's to you because the details are in the tape. Now, it ain't about the money. We can never make enough money. We're not accumulating money to have a revolution. We're accumulating our morality and building up, and that is the revolution. This is the revolutionary factor. Write it up here. I'll show you what it should look like for the revolution. Got a lot of funny faces on it, but you'll pick up the importance of it. It's just a picture of the revolution, what it looked like. And I don't see it. It's just a picture with a bunch of people on it. Just thousands of people. And so I just suggest that we keep this up in our minds as front of our relationship. Now, as I go different places, especially schools, and I'm closing, that you want someone to share in the spirit that it can happen. And no one wants to believe that it can happen because everyone believes that somehow whoever this beast is, he has the right to stay forever. And that was never what the story was as it was. So then we know that it is inevitable that he will lose. Others like him inevitably have lost, and they did.
That's right.
So now we know that because we know the law, we will act like we know the law, and we will prepare. Where is the court in Los Angeles that the people have agreed to will be the place where disputes will be heard? You have your own court. You understand the system. And within it, you can bring charges or allegations or grievances to someone who will hear your court, your day. And this is justice. Every nation has a system of justice. What will we do with the food? How will we deal with the houses? What will we do with the money we owe to the white people? How many of y'all here owe white people money? That's right, that's right, that's right. We need to get that off of you. We need to get that off of you, and when we win the revolution, you're debt free. You don't have to pay anymore. There'll be no one left to pay.
Right.
I always tell them, you see them nice big houses up there in the hills? Go up there and pick you out a house. This is a spirit that we're sharing. One last round. Rockefeller was involved in the killing of the Kennedy. That's only important because the Rockefeller is the chairman of the board of the establishment in America that unifies with establishments in other countries. Rhodes and Rothschild have a secret society, a owner's secret society that knows no initiation of secret rites. There are other secret societies like Skull and Bones with Bush. Bush and Skull and Bones laying in a tomb. Lay in a tomb, butt naked, doing his initiation. A coffin, rather. They were going to coffin, right? The tomb is the clubhouse. Imagine you got a clubhouse called a tomb. Imagine if you told your people that your headquarters was in a cemetery. The dead. A skull and crossbones for a symbol. And when you go over, you jump in a pile of mud and you wrestle each other naked in the mud. Can you see George Bush wrestling with 14 other white men in a pile of mud, butt naked? Oh yeah, say yes, I can see him. That's important because that's taking them back to the beginning. That's a cave bath. That's what mud wrestling is. That's cave bath. That take them back to where they came from. So, last thing is that we be aware of those people, those institutions. We are focusing on those things and they're available in those tapes as a way of focusing. We all remember the story of the Wizard of Oz. We want to keep it in the forefront of our relationships because encoded it is a message about how easy this will be if we decide to make it happen. The three people and the lady and the dog set out to get courage. They wanted a heart. They wanted what they wanted: courage, a heart, a brain, and to go home with it. And so, with those type of ideological goals, spirit goals, value goals, we know all of us need those things. And so we know that we all would be in pursuit of those things, and on the yellow brick road they were to go to find the wizard who had been holding these things back from them, and if only they could get to the wizard, they could make it come about. But the wizard, he had people in the land of Oz who blocked the people from getting to him. They was the OEO boys, when they OEO, right? They marched around and they protected him. Now, as the wizard grew up and extended privileges, people drove his cars, cooked his food, massaged his back, took care of his woman. He had all kind of pathological easements. So he wasn't very strong about himself. In fact, he was very frigid. But he was held up by Gates, the CIA, the FBI, the IMF, the World Bank, the United Nations, the Supreme Security Council. He was held up by those things, and they distracted the people that the one at the top ain't like the one who's buffing the top. The buffer, the one between us and them. We're down to a chemistry about how to move him off. Now, sometimes when they're playing football, they have a trap play where the quarterback takes the ball and he goes to hand it to the guy, but actually the guy looked like he's going through this hole, the lineman moved that way, the other guy moved that way, everybody follows him and the hole opens up with nobody touching anybody. It was a trap play. They just went different directions, everybody followed them, and they opened up a hole in the middle. Suggestion that part of this will be like a trap play. That you will be able to move them through a set of decoyed operations that will have them draw themselves to one direction, but that ain't the direction where it's coming. So the OEO boys protect the Wizard of Oz, but when they finally got to, they had to pass the Wicked Witch of the West. She was the one the West, this is it, this is her, she is the Wicked Witch of the West. Here she is right here. When they got past her, she melted. They threw the water on her. They went to clean her, they put the water on her, and she melted. The Eveline, they flushed the toilet. But when Eveline died, the OEO people, they came out and sang a song. They sang, "Can you see a brand new day? Dun, 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 dun." The same people that were holding up Dorothy, the Scarecrow, the Lion, and the Tin Man, the same people that were holding them up, they ended up helping them get to the wizard. But when they got it, whether it was Richard Pryor and the Wiz, or the little white boy from the Wizard of Oz, it was the wizard who was the weakest of them all. If we get to the top of the Chandlers, the Salzburgers, the Graham Myers, the DuPonts, the Morgans, the Rockefellers, the Rothschilds, when we get to the top of the owners of this thing, you should be the happiest you could ever be, because they are the weakest and the easiest to conquer. It's that buff we got to deal with to get the thing squared away, so we don't underestimate the value of the buff, because we will win when we beat the buff, because the one at the top of these hills, we got them. We got the lights go out and the maids and the drivers stay home. They'll kill themselves. So I suggest to you, like the Wizard of the Oz, that if we were to pursue the values and we were to get as a goal to the bottom of the wizard, that we had a major investigation and we all worked towards identifying them. We stopped everything, took 1 week off. And we just stopped everything. I call for 1 week when we just all do nothing but get together in every city where we are and establish who it is in that city, top 25, who are doing it to us. And then on the 8th day, these things are sent someplace subsequent to that action be planned around those identified in those cities. And we got it. It's really just that simple. I suggest to you that you, the nation, will be under attack. I saw in Chicago when they attacked the nation with that little phony story about the drug story, where they alleged the nation was selling drugs and trading whitefish for cocaine. Whitefish. Don't deal in no whitefish. Taking it to the 50th and Drexel headquarters. That's Jesse Jack quarters. I'm trying to suggest to you that the attacking of the young black male and the attacking of the Nation of Islam is important to the beast to conquer our communities. In every city I go through, and we all have to bury our petty feelings and disagreements with each other, in every city I go to, I beg for them to extend a little, to the nation especially. They are watching us relate with each other to attest that if they mess with one of you, do the others react? If they mess with any of the other of us, will you react? And we must be so interwoven that they know it's like a chain link fence. If you touch one, you touched us all. If it be Brother Wali, never a day should pass when we don't bring up his name. They should always know we never forgot the day he left us mysteriously.
That's right.
So that we don't, I'll tell you, I know people who say they love the nation, but you can't get them out here to say something to defend the nation. In any of these places they go to speak, we give it enough speakers and enough speeches to sound the alarm to reach all our people. If every minister in this church say, give a little moment for when you see the nation, anytime, in code, anytime you see a brother or sister stopped by the police, if you can't stop and lay your car there, honk your horn. Honk like you know them, wave. We want every police to see that whoever was stopped, we must know them. Just honk. Because at that point, they will come to understand that you saw them. You don't ever have to know them. That's not important. Qualifying a response to say, check, don't mess with them. You might not have time to stop, but you got to honk. It's very important. When young brothers are being attacked, watch them very carefully. And we've all suffered losses, so we must cut the losses. I have so much respect and love for you. I'll be around for some days. There's some things I want to leave around to assure that you have access to some of the things that I have. I have a list of the boule. You should know who the boule is in Los Angeles. You should have a list of names of people who we have identified in organizations here who run the activities of the other whites. And I am proud to have had this opportunity to share a few things with you about this. Remember this, some people beat at the white people and they beat at them real hard. They hit them like a bat hitting a tree. But I tell you, a razor blade will chop that tree down faster than a person beating it all day with a bat. Because the razor blade has a cutting edge on it. And eventually you slice it long enough, the tree will go down, but the bat can hit it all day as hard as it wants. It will never bring the tree down. It'll look like it does in NAACP, Urban League, Operation Bush, some of the churches. It'll look like it did. But we know it's hitting it. It ain't got the right tool. So remain the cutting edge of the African community, and in time the tree will go down. Thank you.